Okay, now we don't have to listen to that. And then I have 12:02, but I see a couple people are just connecting to audio. So whenever you're ready, Lourdes, show is yours.
I hope if I did this correctly. So let's see. That's the one thing I don't like about PowerPoint when it gives you all the extra stuff. My screen two. I don't know what y'all see. Do y'all see what I see? It says AIA Florida Northwest. It's just 8x6x2.
Yes, we can see that.
Thanks very much. All right. See, because we're all busy and we all have things to do, unfortunately, I'll make sure we maximize our time. And so I thank you very much for joining the September Women in Architecture virtual meeting from AIA Florida. This is a committee I started this year, or a group, and I love seeing people joining in the bandwagon, including me sending an email to many of our component leaders, I don't know, sometime last week, because the thought of what we were doing did not occur to me until last week. And asking them to provide me with 6 slides to talk about successes and challenges. And they have very short period of time. In fact, that reminds me, I gotta put my timer on. This is something that AIA Miami has been doing for some time, and is basically our version of a pecha kucha. And Miami started that's about 11 years ago. So we have 8 women from around the state and the Caribbean today. They have 6 slides and 2 projects. And so each slide is maybe 30 seconds worth of time at most. And it's really about sharing, right? This is really what this is all about. And as I said a little earlier, the alphabetical order by component, and Florida Northwest happens to be before AIA Florida Southwest. So I will introduce each one of you, and I will advance the slides for you. I will try not to cut you off in the middle of the sentence, but it can happen. And so our first, wait, am I in the right spot? Here we go. Our first candidate who was very kind enough to join in the bandwagon very quickly is Brooke Godinez, AIA from AIA Florida Northwest, and she is next year's president-elect, and she's a project architect at Prime AE.
Can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything?
Oh.
Can you guys hear me? Oh.
I won the wrong headphone.
And so she actually studied in California, isn't that excited, and ended up in Florida. So she was my host last week when Florida was having their gala. So with that, I will give the floor to Brooke. And here you go.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So this first project is from my previous firm. It was for Southern Pine Inspection Bureau. So if you don't know or you're not familiar, that's the third party that grades the #2 pine structural lumber that we use in framing type 5 construction. Didn't know it existed, let alone that it was
Now I
like
can hear
20
you.
minutes away from my house. So the challenge we had is they had a fantastic 1970s modern building about 10 minutes away from this location, and their board decided to cut it down to 1 building, and they chose to stay with this little ugly pre-engineered metal building. So how do you make a pre-engineered metal building, say pine and wood? And the first thing that came up was Robert Venturi and Denise Scott Brown's duck and decorated shed from Learning from Las Vegas. This is a decorated shed. It literally is a shed building. So the other challenge we had is that the zoning had changed in this area. It's light commercial surrounded by residential. So they did not like that we had a factory for lumber testing. And so we had to create a small addition to the building in order to keep our factory portion under 50%. So we moved the demising wall, that's a 2-hour wall between the two, added a small addition to the bottom of the building or the south. The other challenge we had, which is not showing up on this one, is the intern blissfully right out of school pulled out didn't know concept of gravity. So making the rendering that was sold to the client work. And we did it. It was fun. So that was fun. Okay, Lourdes, you can go on the next one. This is a building at a Navy base. And it is a conversion of an arts and crafts building to a fire station. It was a study. The UFC, which is the overlay codes for military work, if you're not familiar, specifically says it's not likely you're ever going to turn anything else into a fire station, but that was the task that we got. This is also located in a seismic area, so the structural engineers had to do a seismic retrofit. So we turned a 1990s arts and crafts building that is actually kind of cool because it's been left untouched since 1990 into a fire station. The challenge on this one is that my interior designer and my senior project architect both retired while the job was in progress, both fairly abruptly and unexpected. So I got to pull off the entire project by myself. So be careful what you wish for when you say you want to be the PM and the architect and do your interior design also. So this is the interior of the main space, which is really cool. Can you pop back, Lourdes? The top right image, this was in one of the rooms that's just filled with a bunch of junk. That scared me. That little mannequin with the wig scared me every time I walked in. So we added the apparatus bay to the side, and we had to adjust the floor level by 12 inches because the apparatus bay has to be higher, and then connection across. So it can be done. We did it. It was a challenge, but it was fun. So this is how it looks. Where we had to pull the CMU off of that clear story, which makes that central space that becomes the day room, training room, where the firefighters spend most of their time, and clad it with metal panel because of the weight. And it was also not good to be at a 45 to the very orthogonal CMU backup wall.
Great, Brooke. Thank you very, very much. And now next we have AIA Florida Southwest, and we have Stephanie McPherson, who is a Florida Southwest president this year. And unless you're speaking, can you mute, please? She actually, as I look things up, amazing what you can find on the internet. She works for Studio Plus and has been doing construction, but she lived in Miami, and you went to UM, right? Did I read that correctly?
I did, absolutely.
And so with that, let me put on my little clock again, and the floor is yours, my dear.
All right, go Hurricanes. So I wasn't planning to submit because I didn't think that my items would be pertinent, because I do construction administration, not design. But Lourdes said, no, you submit. So I don't have projects per se. I have 6 slides that show 6 interesting things that I've encountered recently on some project sites. First one, we have a assisted living facility doing in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Thought this drone photo of the roof trusses staged on the 4th level was just a really neat photo. Looks like matchsticks. And another project where the contractor wrote "bad stud" on the floor for indicating some rework that needed to be done. I have encountered my first earthquake on a project. This is also in South Carolina. There was a 4.0 magnitude earthquake that hit in North Georgia, which it's actually North Carolina. And so it was a 2.7 magnitude, and it damaged the PT slab, the 4-story elevator concrete walls, and another portion of the other side of the elevator. So it was just a first for me. If anybody else has had an earthquake hit a project, kudos to you. This is an indication. I bring a lot of the pictures back to the younger folks that don't get to go to the site and show them examples of construction processes or things that I found. I just thought this was a very interesting site photo on platform framing as they build it on the ground and tilt it up. So this is just another drone photo from the project in South Carolina. And this is an interesting one. We had an RFI, and the structural engineer gave the top of our elevator shaft, but unfortunately it's higher than our roof. So we're going to have to do some rework, either cut down the top bomb beams, or we're gonna create some sort of doghouse architectural feature on there to hide this little mistake. Then this is an interesting one. No power, so the lighting is bad, but we're walking the site, probably a month or so before TCO. The owner says, "Why is this wall going into our door?" And I said, "Oh, it's crazy." So we look at the plan. It is actually drawn that way. The contractor actually built it with this wall. And I believe, so it's a PT slab. So the guy probably has all this plumbing in. He realizes now that, oh, we can't move this wall over because we can't core the slab. We had an opportunity, of course, to put a smaller door, but the contractor just continued on, and now we have something we'll have to retrofit here some way. And I think there might be one more.
Yes.
This is another. So this is a project in Fort Mill, the platform framing. They had a portion of the assisted living facility in place, and they had a storm come through, and it just blew a large portion of our walls, exterior walls and interior walls down. So they had to reset everything.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephanie. And now we have AIA Florida Miami, and we have Amanda Barton, AIA Florida Miami president-elect for next year. And she works at HKS, and she has been there, I think, since she graduated. She's also a UM grad. So, and she has been certainly getting a lot of young people in Miami involved. So the floor is yours, Amanda.
Thanks, Lourdes. So my first project is within a large resort of Lo Pisan, Costa Bava in the Dominican Republic. The original concept was 2 phases. The first phase with our team designed and constructed was a 1.2 million square foot beach resort with 1,000 keys. And our second phase that hopefully will start construction soon was another 1.4 million square foot cenote resort with an additional 1,000 keys. And while each of these phases came with their own amenities, such as pools, bars, and restaurants, we realized that we needed to do a little bit more to make this all-inclusive resort exciting. So the team decided to look at an interstitial space where guests from both sides of the resort could connect to relax and play. And as we were trying to figure out the program, we compared ourselves to similar resorts, but also realized how similar it is to a cruise ship and how we can fit just as much, how a ship can fit just as much program into that condensed space as we could on land. Through the design phases, you can see that we started with very simple diagrams, figuring out adjacencies and zones that flowed from more private and quiet areas to more fun and loud zones. Then we figured out its program square footage and how guests could move through the boulevard with open pergolas, and how even in the negative space, we were able to create movement and program. Service connections heavily played a role in the layout to connect large portions of the project without our guests' knowledge. So you can start reading that in our phases below. Now, my second project is the Shipyards Mixed Use Development in Jacksonville, Florida. Consists of 176 keys, 25 branded residents. The master plan also included office building, resort, park space, and a marina infrastructure building. And its main objective was to influence social, economic, and environmental change within that community. The property presented notable challenges. We'll see 4 non-build easements that extend across the site and major height restrictions in order to keep the visual consistency of the boardwalk. As we design the site, we use these easements as view corridors and access points for vehicles and pedestrians. With the height restrictions, we use it to influence the terrace building form. But our team also made it more challenging because while we were reduced in height, we also constrained ourselves from the base of the project as we elevated the site an additional 7 foot for FEMA, 100-year floodplain, and 2 foot for wave height. Another aspect to the design was that with our 2 major programmatic elements of the hotel and residence, the hotel had a sawtooth design to make sure all units had views, but the residential units all were see-through. Sections were key to our design, as the floor to floor for the hotel was 11 foot, while the residents were 15 foot. And while this could have been easily solved if we stacked the program or if we increased the hotel to match the residential side, our team wanted to be economic and resourceful by not using extra materials. So we decided to do a split slab system, which in essence created 2 buildings while making the facade read as one. So you can start seeing how we're adjusting these in the facading. There's a little bit of play in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. And now we have, is it Sel on the line? We have.
Yes, I am. How are you?
Hi, Itzel. So we have Itzel Lozada, AIA, who's AIA Orlando's vice president and president-elect in 2024, maybe 23. I don't know what year. 24. And
24.
yes, and she is works at Bermeo Hamilton Partners, and she also quickly jumped to help me out. So thank you very, very much. So the floor is yours, Itzel.
Thank you so much, Lourdes, and I'll try to make this as brief as I can. I actually picked my 2 most challenging and complex projects, and they were both with Bermeo at different times or different timelines in my lifetime. One was in Miami. This is in 2004 to about 2007. Here, what you're looking at are images that we presented to the zoning hearing in order to get this project approved. It's at the heart of downtown in the Arts District. And it's actually to try to be able to get a variances to allow us to build the building in a 0 lot line. There were a few requirements for setbacks and tapering the corners, but we were able to get that accomplished. Here you can see the perspectives of what the design was. We tried to, maximize the green areas by creating green spaces at the pool deck and doing those at the penthouses as well. Making it challenging, but I think really adding to the design. We also had to step back the building based on some of the zoning code requirements at the time. This was in an area that was a declining part of Miami. It's Overtown, but these were the kind of things that were happening back during the housing boom. The issue with this project is that it didn't get built until a decade later. Because the market and the bubble crash, the bubble burst and the housing market crash, it didn't get built until later. But the actual developers had a really good vision about what they wanted the space to be. Here you can see these are 2-story lofts, more like what you see up north with the exposed concrete, exposed ductwork, a lot of the brickwork. It was really visionary type of a setting when everybody else was doing the same typical units. Here we can see, here we're trying to get a fire code approval to try to build a 4-level loft, which we call the VIP loft. But at the end of the day, we weren't able to do that. We could only do 2-story mezzanines. So we had to divide it into 2 parts. And then it was up to the residents to come back and open it up a little bit more. But these are just perspectives showing what it ended up becoming. I didn't get a chance to do the CA part of this project, but it was built later and was able to visit it. This is my second project with Bermeo. Sorry, this is my second project with Bermeo. This is a healthcare project. This is what I do now. It's actually what I'm working on. It's with Orlando Health. It's a project that has 4 phases, as you can see. Pretty big, and we've completed the first phase, which is the images that you see here, and we're now into phase 2 and 2A. 2A will be done at the beginning of October, and phase 2 by the end of the year. And in phase 2, it's the preoperative rooms. We have the perspectives on the left showing the nurses' stations, the preoperating rooms. These are the rooms that patients are prepared before they go into the ORs. Phase 3 will require us to complete about 6 ORs, one of them being a hybrid OR, meaning that you're going to have a imaging equipment as you're doing the surgery, which is pretty fascinating. There's a lot of complexities in this type of work, which is what I really enjoy, but at the same time also being able to work close in hand with the contractor and the consultants in order to be able to get this project done. It's pretty challenging because we're actually doing it within 5 buildings of Orlando Health in order to be able to fit the program. What happens with healthcare is that it's not just doing the 6 ORs, but there's a lot of programming requirements that you have to have certain patient bays, nurse stations, storage areas, and so forth. And that's a reason why the project became 77,000 square feet. And I'm working on that one now, so.
Great, thank you very much. And now we have AIA Florida Palm Beach. And we have Denise Vaz Arzuaga, AIA from AIA Florida Palm Beach. And she is a co-founder and principal at Civil Design Incorporated. And she is from Puerto Rico. And I know she's thinking like all of us about Puerto Rico and the storm Fiona that hit them. But now the floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm going to apologize. My graphics are not as fabulous as everybody else's. I put this together in a rush. I've been swamped. But anyway, I thought I'd show you some tidbits of what I've been doing. And I wanted to discuss St. Juliana Catholic Church. It is one of my hot items right now. This is a church that was built in 1960s. CMU walls, exposed wood roof structure. It is unprotected, not sprinklered, lots of challenges. We can go to the next one. On the first week of August, a fire originated in the ladies' bathroom. And this is my parish. So the father called me and said, Denise, come help us out. It was arson. It was deliberately said. Thankfully, the fire was contained in the immediate area of the ladies' room. It unfortunately charred a 6x10 heavy timber and 2 adjacent wood joists that support the mezzanine above. And those are the pictures you see on the right. It also charred plywood sheathing and plank decking. You see a section cut. I'm sorry. You see a section cut there, courtesy of the fire department. That was not supposed to be like that. Obviously, they cut through that to actually fight the fire, but it's a real life section cut. Yep, next. So challenges with dealing with a fire. This is my first fire, and the owner is in a rush to get back in, and there's been some missed steps in procedure and protocol. The fire marshal did not lock them out of the building or put any red paper saying you can't come in. So the diocese started doing some stuff that they shouldn't be doing, including when I returned on my second visit. You see there on the right-hand side, the GC had already started removing some of the structural members and the sheathing that he was not supposed to touch. So I've been having to mitigate damage and run quarterback here between the diocese, the church, and the building department. So we just went in with a demolition, temporary life safety protocols and a demolition permit, just so that I could get them to occupy partially the church while we proceed with renovations. Sadly, this is going to take twice as long now because we've been having to do it this way. Next. Something that I also do, much like Stephanie, aside from traditional practice of architecture, one of my passions is sustainability. And so I do a lot of sustainability consulting, especially FGDC consulting. And this is one of my prides. This is an FGDC Platinum certification. It's an A-Loft hotel and condo in Delray Beach, mixed use. Next. Just want to show some lessons learned. And you may say, oh, well, as an architect, this is the owner and the GC. Well, it's a whole team effort. And these are things that if they're not addressed at the onset of the project, it jeopardizes the whole certification process and the owner, because they're the ones who suffer. If these prerequisites are not dealt with up front, these you cannot backtrack on. And that is the NOI and your erosion and sedimentation controls, protections. The NOI is that permit from the Florida FDEP. It's obtained by the site contractor, but it has to be at the onset of the project, typically for sites required for sites that are larger than an acre, but I do believe that Miami requires them for all projects. Anyway, so those measures are critical, and also protection of ductwork. And in this one, lessons learned, when selecting for water fixtures, just to choose your battles. Water use for some hotel chains, that is sacred. You do not affect the flow of water, so they will not compromise on that. But when you're dealing with condos, it's a lot easier because obviously efficient plumbing fixtures are more the trend for residential applications. So those are not as challenging to obtain. Am I out of time, Lourdes?
No, you're right on it. Thank you.
Okay,
This
can
is
we go
awesome.
back to the previous one? I just wanted to touch on I didn't get to talk about the SMACNA. So the duct protection on the site is very critical when you guys are doing your site inspections. If you have an FGVC or a LEED certified, and these are pictures that need to be taken for documentation purposes. And again, once those are installed and gone, those are missed opportunities. So I always tell my clients to stay on top of it and document with photographs, all of these prerequisites, so that when it comes time to certify, we have all the paperwork and pictures necessary. Yay.
Yay,
I'm
thank
done.
you. Well, I just had an idea. Denise needs to give us a little like webinar of things to do for LEED and sustainability, because sometimes.
Oh, yeah, that
would be
is
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. Be happy
Okay.
to do that.
Oh, look at that. I'm always coming up with ideas when people don't want me to come up with ideas. All right, and now we have AIA Tallahassee, and Rhonda Hammond is from AIA Tallahassee, but she is a Florida president-elect, so she will be our president 2024, because she was just elected. And she has been working with her other half for, I don't know, about 20 some years, and she hasn't killed them yet. So that's also very exciting. Sorry, I had to put that one in.
Hello, everybody.
So the floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you. So the first project that I wanted to share with you, Lourdes asked that we do one that we had fun with and one that was challenging. So this first one was my fun, and it's the Smoky Hollow Historic Barbershop Preservation. We did this in late 2017 into 18. And the reason I chose it was that the story behind the structure and its role in the history tied to Tallahassee, the community it represents, the collaboration that it took between residents, local leaders, agencies, specialty vendors, our office, and the contractor to bring the structure back to life. And then the legacy that it brings as being part of the commemorative park in downtown Tallahassee. So go back, we're going to stay there for a second. For over 60 years, Smoky Hollow has been a thriving African-American community with and home to churches, restaurants, stores, and hundreds of residents. Urban renewal efforts in the 60s eliminated the neighborhood, and you see it there circled, with the barbershop being moved from its original location for the construction of the Hayden Burns building, which is our Department of Transportation. The barbershop was moved to the Tallahassee Airport property, where it remained until 2012. So the building was neglected, suffered fire damage, and over the years became virtually a derelict structure. Okay. So the memories of the close-knit working class community never waned, and efforts of several residents, and especially those of Althemis Barnes, a local leader in preserving African-American history and culture. The building was moved to Lively Vocational Institute with the idea of being restored by students. And ultimately, the building required more expertise than students could provide, and eventually Blueprint 2000 became involved and spearheaded the restoration. To date, the building serves as an anchor for the Smoky Hollow Commemorative Park District, as in the little diagram there. And it allows visitors to come and reflect on the importance of this iconic building type as it relates to the African-American community. And while I was putting these slides together last night watching the news, I saw that the park has been rededicated as the Althemis Barnes City Park in her honor, and she spoke. Okay. So the building was carefully restored, maintaining all the existing materials that could be salvaged. The wood used in it was heart pine. The wood flooring and siding were specifically milled to the original historic profiles through a private sawmill in nearby Liberty County. The saw blades were designed and manufactured just for this project, which was amazing. The windows and doors were sourced through historic salvage venues that were historically accurate and date specific with the materials. I believe we got those out of Ohio, of all places. The interior finish was historically and accurately recreated using historic mixtures of linseed oil and turpentine. The lighting remained true as code would allow, but there were security and safety features that were installed, as you can see with that light hanging over the front door there. We've received a preservation award from the Historic Trust that will be awarded here in a couple weeks. So this is the Smoky Hollow barbershop restoration. So the next project I chose as my challenging project. We did this in 2019 or 2009. It's referred to as Sharkey's Capital Cafe. The reason it was challenging, as you see here, the construction schedule that was allowed was 22 days. Now, yeah, I'll tell you why in a moment. It only had a budget of $200,000. The scope included abatement of asbestos tiling, and the location was on the 10th floor of the Capitol building. So currently, or at the time, the space was a deli, provided cold food and sandwiches with vending machines, and it was operated by the Division of the Blind. A local lobbyist, Jeff Sharkey, I don't know if you know him or not, Becky, but he leased the deli and the cafeteria on the lower level with the intent of renovating both areas. So phase one was this specific area, and he wanted to turn it into a coffee house type. Okay. So with the idea of a coffee house environment, we took off understanding that he was landlocked, so to speak. He wanted to maximize the space to allow as many lobbyists, attorneys, legislators, and staff to be able to use the facility. He felt like it was an ideal location due to its proximity to the committee hearing rooms and both the Senate and House floors themselves. So as you can see, I put well, this is more construction. We were absolutely on top of each other, and I literally stayed there every day and worked with the contractor on top of each other. The really bold colors were his coffee house colors. So it was state of the art at the time in terms of technology, in that it provided charging stations for electronics and had TV monitors broadcasting the meeting so everyone could stay up to date on what was going on in the chambers and head out when they saw that their time to speak was coming up. We did indeed, I say we, but I did indeed meet that schedule with the construction beginning on September 22nd, and I signed off on the final completion on October 15th. The pictures taken here were some I did real quick on my phone. As you can see, Mr. Sharkey is there checking to confirm that the cash register was indeed working. So this one was my challenging one. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Rhonda. And now we have AIA Florida Tampa Bay and Gloria Cloder. AIA is our speaker from Tampa, and she's, I believe you're the chair of the Women in Architecture Committee in Tampa, if I'm not mistaken. And when I want to grow up, I really want to figure out what her schedule is, because she does a lot, including, I had to put it in there, her recently published book called The Architecture of Motherhood. And she's also has a 2-year-old, I believe is Nova's age, and she's expecting number 2. She co-founded her new firm literally just as her child was born, give or take a few, and it's called Glow Architects. And with that, Gloria, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lourdes. So I've been working with a couple of projects in the commercial side. We do commercial and residential. It was funny when I saw Denise's presentation with the church, it just made me think of how much I'm loving getting involved with spiritual projects. Now we're working actually with 3 churches. One is like a 45,000 square footage. But when I was trying to choose last minute for this presentation, I thought, okay, let me go back to one that really have a story behind. And this one project was in, I did it in 2010. It's international. It was back in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And the story behind this one is for, I think for those who might have a small business like me or are thinking to start a small business, because this project is really small. You can see the floor plan. It was just not much square footage, and it's a TI project. More interiors than anything, but the story behind and the challenges that I faced with it was that I was hired by Steve Madden. It was the first time they were coming to the country, and they already had a design. They had an architect who did a design for them, and they just wanted me to build they hired me actually as a general contractor, which is funny because we can do that in the DR depending on the type of project. And I said yes, but I have a philosophy with my company, which is I always like to make renders. If you go back to the previous slide real quick for this. So we prepare based on the other architects' design, we prepare renders because I wanted to make sure they were understanding what they were getting. And it was funny because as soon as we presented, and we were about 2 weeks to needing to start construction of this project, the design was completely different. It looked more like it had like a feel of like a restaurant for some reason. And when they saw like all the finishes selected, the colors that were going to be put in, and the design itself as a 3D render, like the visualization of it, they were like, this is not what we want. And they were panicking. They were going to get penalized if they were behind on construction and schedule because the Blue Mall was new and they had an opening day that everybody needed to be ready, and anybody who was not ready was going to be penalized per day. So it was important for us to start building on time. And they said, can you help us? Can you give us a new design? And, you know, I was starting my company. We're talking about 2010 here. This is 12 years before, right? And I think it's the power of saying yes. I was afraid. This was really big for me. It was the first Steve Madden in the country. This was a big mall. It had a lot of attention. And I didn't sleep for 2 weeks, making these renders and putting all the plans together and getting approved, and working at the same time with the mall to get approval by their board first, so we could start building while getting permitting done at the same time. So it was kind of like a fast track project, but it was kind of like mentally impossible, and we got it done. We opened the store on time. Actually, one day before the deadline, we were ready. And the best part of it is this one little project brought me so many opportunities after. I got about 4 or 5 other retail stores from this one, and this one project got published by the local magazine with a great review, and many other stuff came really great after this. So my point is, sometimes it might be not too big, but it might be very scary, and I think we just need to say yes and kind of figure out as we go, which is what I did. My second project is this one. This is one of the most recent one I'm working in the residential side. And the reason why I wanted to put it is because it's quite different for what we normally do on the residential side of things. We usually do get clients that want more of a, I will say more of a traditional look on the houses. It's usually single family homes. It's usually their very last. We do have really great projects in like Boca Raton, 7,000 square footage homes that are like great, but they are either more like Mediterranean look or kind of like craftsman style or things like that. And this one client, the challenge with them has been that they hire us to, and that's the other thing, we usually hire just as the architects. Interiors are usually managed because we work a lot with either investors or developers or really high-end clients, and they usually have the interior design separate from us. But this one client was interesting because they said, no, we want you to handle everything. So we have a big challenge with them because they wanted a very modern look. We're doing interiors, but they have a specific budget we need to respect. And what we've been doing, this is already in permitting. That's why I don't have like real pictures here of construction, but what we did is we were very close with them and the GC that they have to manage our budget, and then very close with our structural engineer, because if you go back to the previous one, you can see there's some challenges on some of these cantilever balconies going on, and some of the things we wanted to do because of what the client wants for this house, which has a detached building. For them, as they're thinking they're gonna have like a Airbnb in the back and all these other ideas of what they want to do. But again, it's like if we're working with an investor, it's the part of thinking, okay, they want this look, and then there's challenges you are with a structural, but then they have this budget. And I think it has been really great for me on the part of like working very, very close together with everybody involved, which we usually do, but I just feel this specific project came with specific challenges in that matter, and I've learned a lot from it. So just kind of wanted to point that out on how you know, a small project like this, which is, you know, a small residential, but just have really get me into the nitty gritty of stuff. So that's my last project.
Great, thank you. And now, last but certainly not least, and I am so thrilled that she's able to make it, Monique Lugo, who is AIA Puerto Rico, and I apologize for the Florida words in there, is first of all, Monique, first, thank you for joining us. B, let us know how we can do we help. We've been all watching the news and are certainly feeling for you guys. So the floor is yours to use however you wish. And thank you. And I hear you're okay, but obviously you're here. But
Yeah.
anything that we as women in Florida can do to help Puerto Rico, please don't hesitate. So you can chat now, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start with what's in the program, and later I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Talk about this one.
Okay.
Okay. So this first project is the Baldwin School Innovation Center. This project I started 10 years ago before I even joined ADMV. I joined ADMV 5.5 years ago. That moment I decided to pivot my career. Some would say I had a midlife crisis, but I have a different opinion, but we could talk about that in another occasion. At that time, 10 years ago, when I started this project, my children were students at that school. So I thought I was designing a building for them. It turned into a very personal project. One of the challenges this project was getting funding for the project. The school has a very, very solid economics. So they were able to get bonds by the Puerto Rico Financing Authority. $9 million were issued in bonds to make this project a reality. When we finally decided to go with the project, we were in the middle of the bidding process. Pandemic started, and the school decided to cancel the project. 4 months ago, we started the bid process again, and now the project is 3 times as expensive, but the school is going forward with it. Another challenge for this project was that, the program for the project is a makerspace, 3D lab. It has a media library. And I think one of the biggest challenges is technology and also designing for future problems and technology that we at the present don't have. So that foreseeing of what could be in the future was really a challenge for this project. I'm eager to see it constructed. The second building is the Residence Inn by Marriott in Isla Verde. This project is the first new build hotel construction in the Isla Verde tourist area in the past 25 years. For us at ADV, it was a real milestone to get this project because we were certified by Marriott, and we could design it all by ourselves without any of their architects or interior designers. So all the architecture and interior design was done by ADV. It was the first high-rise I ever designed. So for me, it was also a milestone. This hotel is 231 rooms, which is almost twice as large as their prototype, which has its own challenges. The pandemic affected the project because as we were finishing CDs and construction was about to start, the pandemic also started. Marriott had layoffs and staff changes, which affected the whole review process of the project. But the developer decided to go ahead with the project, even though the hotel industry was being affected at the time. The entire project was constructed during the pandemic, and it was on budget and on schedule, which was a real accomplishment. I attributed it to we could work really well with Marriott and the developer as a team. We really had a good synergy. Design-wise, we were able to provide a local flavor to an otherwise pretty generic brand. We wanted to make the property to truly feel like it was in Puerto Rico. So we commissioned local artists for furnishings, murals, and sculptures. And the color scheme we will use was changed from the traditional residence theme to reflect a sense of place and preference of the local tourist. I mean, when you visit the property, I think we elevated the brand for Marriott. So, and that's it. About the storm, I'm okay. We at the office are all okay. 30% of the island has power. That means 70% of the island has no power. A lot of people also don't have any potable water in their houses. I think today, well, yesterday in the afternoon, recovery efforts are really being organized. Rain didn't stop. We have 3 days of rain. There were no, there was no wind, basically. The wind damage was minimal, but the flood damage was incredible. A lot of mudslides, flooding. It's been hard. We were hit really badly by Maria 5 years ago. You've experienced it in Florida. You know that disaster recovery, you start seeing a lot of projects like 5 years in. And that's what was happening in Puerto Rico right now. We were like seeing things moving along, and now it seems that we're going back. We also, I don't know, we in Puerto Rico are very resilient. So I guess we often minimize what we are going through. But I'll definitely reach out to you guys once I know how you can support us. So, thank you.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I know Dominican Republic also got a lot of water, maybe not as much. And I do know there are certain parts of the DR were in drought. So some areas, quote unquote, appreciated, quote unquote, the water, but maybe not the quantity. So I don't know, Gloria, if you've heard anything from your compatriot.
Family and friends, the ones that are like in the main city and kind of like north west are okay. The main affected areas are those who are in the east side. I have family and friends that lives in that side, and some properties have been severely damaged, especially in like the more kind of lower income areas where construction were not, like CMU block, which you do see a lot in the main cities and stuff. So a lot of families affected, and a lot of flooding, and just houses completely damaged in and out. So yeah, I don't think it's as bad as Puerto Rico, but there's an area, especially, like Punta Cana, Romana, all that area was like heavily affected.
Great. Well, again, Monique and certainly Gloria, if you hear anything that we can do to help, but certainly AA Puerto Rico, we're here to help. However, many of us do have those emergencies, things that we've never used, but hopefully they don't call us for that. But anything we can do to provide help. I know Rhonda is a master at this. She did a lot of help. AA Tallahassee did a lot when the area was impacted by Hurricane Michael
Yeah,
4 years ago, I think.
it was
So
18, October of 18.
So anything, I'm sure she can give you some ideas or pointers or anything. So
So
yeah.
Rhonda, I'll reach out to you. Becky, if you can send me Rhonda's information.
Absolutely.
Here,
And
I'll put it in the chat, or Becky, if you can send it to her.
Sure, either way. And Monique, I just wanted to let you know, so many people have reached out, and I didn't want to bombard you as you're just
No.
getting your power back on, but so many people in Florida have reached out about how they can help. So please share, because you have a whole state ready to come on over.
Or maybe we can have the conversation of figuring out, because this is the biggest thing I pulled from Hurricane Michael, that the needs changed as time went on. You know, right away it was making them safe, getting them water and shelter and things like that. But then the needs began to change to, some people were living in tents and like cook stoves or camp stoves and sleeping bags and blankets. And, you know, of course, anything for babies. So any way that we can figure out how we can coordinate what you need and when. So I would love to have a conversation.
Okay. Yeah. I'll call you, Rhonda. Thank you so much to everyone.
Oh, you are most welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
So I know we all have busy lives, and I think we have 8 minutes. So yes, Becky.
I was going to say, Denise has her hand raised.
Yay, somebody. I was just going to say, if you have questions, comments, now's your time. Go for
Just
it.
waiting my turn. No, I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everybody, as I made a point to put this in my calendar. Those of you who took your SAP training 2 years ago, we did that.
Yeah, mine's expiring, so I got to do something.
Mine is expiring. It's like next week. So
next week.
I just reached out to them, and there's a little course, a refresher course we have to take and pass some quizzes. It's like a continuing education type thing.
Okay.
So I have all the information. So please do your due diligence and make sure if you're about to expire, check on your SAP and just communicate directly. And I'm happy to share that link if anybody needs it.
That would be great if you could share that.
Yes,
mine
then
expires.
send it, because I mean, we do have it every year. We're having it now in November as well. But I can share it to my members to check if they're expiring.
Yeah, it's so important. So
Yeah, Denise, if you don't mind sharing that, I'll put it in Friday Facts. And at the beginning of every hurricane season, Monique, I reach out to California to get who is current. So let me send you Puerto Rico's list. I'm sure you have it, but just in case.
Okay.
So you have who's
yep,
trained.
I'll send that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this was, if anybody has any comments, questions, I see a lot on the chat. I was not looking at the chat while I was doing the presentation because I couldn't do too many things. I can walk and chew gum, but I can't walk, chew gum and text. I can't do all of that.
It was so much fun. Thank you.
So I certainly want to thank everybody who jumped on this bandwagon in the usual Lourdes fashion. Oh, can you do this? And can we do it in a week? Or, this is, I guess, what makes this so much exciting for me. And so thank you. And hopefully, and I do, if Becky lets me do it, would like to do this sort of an annual thing that maybe next year we'll have 15, we'll have all the components. And I know several components wanted to, and they just, our schedule gets very complicated. But I was very, very pleased that all of you guys were not only willing to present, your challenges and your stuff, but that all of us were here to listen, because this is fun to share what people are doing. It's when Stephanie says, well, I don't do any design. I'm like, yeah, but you know how to build stuff. So maybe Stephanie can also do a little session on what to do or not to do. And of course, I'm looking at all this wood, and I'm in Miami. We don't do any wood construction. So it certainly looks like matchsticks to me,
Right.
So
I'd be happy to do something.
see, Becky, I keep finding you things that you can come up with,
Yeah, I know Stephanie has some stories.
The do's and don'ts, right, of construction administration. Actually, yeah, that would be something to have.
We like that idea. Yeah.
Yes. So, so thank you so very much. And we still have 5 minutes if anybody wants to, just share. And I'll have to ask Monique, what was her midlife crisis when she has time to. When she has time to share.
Know what that is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. You piqued my interest. And Gloria, when is your baby due? So we
December
make sure
20
not to text you then.
December 20, look at this, Billy.
Ay, qué
Oh.
bello. Beautiful.
You can fit in the camera. Can we, I don't know if some of you might turn on your camera so we can take a group photo.
Yes, please do so.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
let me move
Please,
this
picture
thing so we
time.
can
picture
see.
time, picture time. So, please. And we have 2 pages of people in my screen. I'm not
Yes.
sure, how do you make
Picture
that bigger?
1. All right. 1, 2, 3, picture 1.
Oh, there's Nati. Hey, there you go.
Picture 2. All right, look for your beautiful smiling faces in Friday Facts.
Woohoo, this is
Oh, I sent Becky, we are having the Puerto Rico conference, the convention in October. I sent Becky the information. If any one of you can join us, you're more than welcome. Reach out to me. We're having the Women in Architecture exhibition at the convention, so.
And it is linked, when you look in the calendar, you'll see under Puerto Rico, there'll be a link to the convention when you get Friday Facts. It was in last week's and it'll be there again this week.
Great.
And can everybody hear me? Me and my video camera are not happy today. Sarah, are you still on? Sarah Jimenez, who is from Miami.
I am still on.
And she is graciously agreed to my, gee, wouldn't you do this? And I did give her some time. So maybe did you come up with a title so that we can pique people's interest?
Yes, it is called Endurance Leadership. What I learned, what I learned on leadership training for an Ironman.
So I don't know how many, it's not on my bucket list to do Ironman, so I certainly want to learn from you so I don't have to do that to learn the leadership skills.
It's very interesting. It's going to be all about me, so be warned. But it is I want to thank Lourdes because I thought about doing this a long time ago, and until she asked me to do it, I've been doing it, and it takes time because it was a lot of thoughts going through my mind, and I'm finally putting it in paper. So thank you, Lourdes.
No, happy to. This will be exciting, and it'll be October something, right? 26, right, Becky?
26, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
October
Correct.
26th.
Correct.
Yes. So thank you very much, Sarah, for agreeing to do this. Anybody have any idea for November? Please send our way. Maybe November, December combined, since it does happen to have Thanksgiving and all those lovely things that kind of get in the way. And I'm certainly looking for some of you who want to be part of the planning committee, so that it's not just me coming up with the idea and giving you a week to come up with it. So we can plan this. So please let me know if you'd like to help do this and decide, do we do this monthly? Do we do it quarterly? Do we like bi-monthly? Those kind of things. I wanted to keep it running this year just because it was the first time and get everybody into it. But please send them to Becky, send them to me, and we'll certainly make sure that we, have a plan with a little more time. Although, of course, we love deadlines. So if you don't give us a short deadline, we don't do the work. So, there's something to be said for that. So.
Lourdes, this has been fabulous. I'd never expected this to be so amazing and so interesting. We usually get the other side of, oh, it's all about feminist women coming together type of thing, and it's not. It's about regular people who are incredible quality and accomplished in their own ways and in different views, but with our perspective. So I love, love, love what you've put together.
Well, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we will certainly have another one of these next year with hopefully all 13 of our components, and Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands if possible. And because we are a region, even if we're no longer a region according to national. So thank you all, and have a great rest of the day, and see you all next month. And I'll put this on the base cap. So if you guys want to look at it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.